Today I am making some fall leaves, and I just want to show you a close-up of what I'm going to be working on. And you can tell they're both a little bit different. So this one, the color is all the way to the edge, all the way around, and the veining looks like it's like inside the resin. This is nice and flat. And this is actually what I'm going for. This one, you can see there's clear around the edges, and there's almost an indentation or a texture where the veining is. So the reason these are different is because this one, I painted the veining into the mold and I let it dry for probably an hour before I actually poured. And then when I poured my resin, I mixed it up and I poured right away. This one, the veining wasn't 100% dry. So when I demolded it, you can see there's some indents there. It's totally dry now, and it actually leaves kind of a nice texture. But because it wasn't completely dry, it didn't get like incorporated into the resin as much as this one did. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I let this dry for maybe 20 minutes. And then the clear around the edges, that's because I didn't pour right away. I mixed up my resin and I had a bunch of other molds sitting here, and I poured those first. And then when I got to this one, the resin, it was maybe nearing 25-30 minutes, and my resin has a 45-minute work time, so it was starting to get a little thick, and because of that it didn't spread to the edges, but it left a really cool texture. So there's, you know, this one also has the texture as well, but they're different. This one is bumpier because the resin it didn't get all the way down to the bottom of the mold. It drops down through the clear, which you'll see, but it didn't have enough time to get all the way down to the bottom. So you can see all the little drizzles that I made. Whereas this one, because the resin was thinner when I poured it, it had enough time to get to the bottom and leave this nice, almost like a dragon skin effect. So two totally different looks. The only thing that differed was the timing. I used the exact same resin, the same exact colorants, the same mica powders, everything was the same, it was just the timing. So depending which look you want to go for, you'll just have to adjust your timing. So for this one, let the paint dry completely and then mix and pour right away. If you want this look, you want to let your paint set up but not completely dry, and then let your resin sit until it starts to get a little bit thick before you pour. So two looks, both are super cool, but different. So today I'm gonna be going for this look. That's what I'm hoping to get. So this is the mold that I use. This is from Juilliard 84 on Etsy, and I will put a link in the description, but this mold is absolutely wonderful. It's shiny, it's very well made, great quality mold. Highly recommend this store. So the first thing I'm going to do is the veins. This one I used gold, and this one I used copper. That's the only difference. Everything else, like I said, I used the same micas and everything. The only difference was that veining color. So I'm going to use the copper today, and it's the PBO Relief Outliner in copper. And this comes in copper, gold, silver, white, black. Comes in quite a few colors. So that's what I'm using today. And I just snipped, oh, this is this is not the one I used. Hold on one second. I have two of them. This is the one. So you can see I just snipped a little hole in the top and just apply it that way. You don't need a paintbrush or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and put the veining in. So I like to just make sure there's a clean flow before I start. And I'm gonna start with the stem. I'm just gonna kind of fill in most of this stem area. And then I work away from myself with the paint. Everyone kind of works their own comfort level, but if you've never used a liner before, I would practice. So I work this way, and then I'll work towards myself, and then I'll turn it around and do the other side. I don't go this way with it. I don't have as much control, and I have a little bit of a hand tremble, and it's worse if I'm that way. So this way I can rest my hand and have better control. So just gonna start by gently squeezing the tube. Just trying to keep a regular, even pressure. And then I stop squeezing when I get to about here, and the rest just kind of comes out on its own. If you stop squeezing at the very end, you're gonna end up with like a little blob of paint at the end. So. Okay, so now I'm just gonna let this dry for about an hour, and then I will be back to pour the resin. Okay, I am back. I've got a very thin layer of clear poured into the mold. This whole mold takes about 2 ounces of resin total. So I would guess that's about an ounce that's in the mold right now. And then I have the other ounce divided up in these 4 cups over here. And that is going to be for the mica powder. So what I'm using, I have Pearl X in Brilliant Gold, the Super Copper. I think this is now called Hot Copper. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't been able to find the Super Copper again. And then the Red Russet. So those are my fall colors. And then I also have Sage Green from Artisan Pigments. This came in a set that I got on Amazon. And I'll link to all these mica powders in the description if you wanted to grab them. So, I don't know if you can see what's in the cup. There is barely, it's maybe filled to about here. So there's really, it's 1 ounce divided into these 4 cups. So not a lot of resin for the colors. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get the colors mixed up. For each of the powders, I'm only using, it's too much. You really don't need much because it's only like 1/4 of an ounce of resin. That's probably too much. About that much. Try and tilt it. So that's about how much mica, maybe a smidge more. Just a smidge more. But you really don't need a lot because it's not a lot of resin. If you use too much, then your mixture gets to be too thick and it's hard to pour. Okay, I got all the colors mixed up and it's time to pour. So I am going to start with the gold. I like to do the green last because that will kind of peek through here and there in spots. You can see the green just kind of peeking through, but that's why I save it for last because I don't want there to be a lot of green in the piece. I'm going to start with the gold. And I'm gonna do kind of the gold kind of through the center, I guess. Trying to do it randomly. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna be pouring the thinnest little stream of resin, and I'm gonna let it kind of wiggle or drizzle its way out of the cup. I'm not trying to pour it smoothly. I'm gonna let it do its own little dance as it falls. So it almost looks like filigree as it's coming out. I'm gonna try and bring you down for a close-up as I pour the next color so you can see how the stream is coming out. Okay, so hopefully this is a good angle that you can see what I'm doing here. I've got the cup, I've pinched to make a nice little spout. So you go over here a little bit more, sorry. Trying to hold my phone and pour. All right, so now I'm just going to let it just kind of drizzle out. And you see how it's coming out in like little, just random little, I don't even know. Like I said, it almost looks like filigree. So just let it drizzle out on its own. And I'll overlap the yellow a little bit. All right, I'm gonna put my phone back up on the tripod. Okay, so hopefully that view was helpful to you, but I'm gonna pour the other colors now without holding my phone because it's just too hard to do. But hopefully you can kind of see the pattern that I'm putting together. So that was the copper. So I did the gold first, then the copper, and I kind of drizzled the copper over the gold a little bit. Now I'm doing the red, and I'm just gonna do it in the areas where I haven't poured the other resins yet, or the other colors, I should say. And again, I am overlapping the other colors just a little bit. Gonna get down into the stem. And I like to overlap because a leaf, you know, it's usually not one solid color. So that'll let some of the other colors trickle through. All right, now I'm going to do the green. So now the whole leaf pretty much has some color, but there's a lot of areas where you can still see the mold. And that's where the green is gonna kind of just fall through. And I'm gonna start in an area where there's already a lot of color because I don't want this initial glop of resin that falls out to make a big blob down at the bottom. I'm just kind of going around and I'm hitting the spots that I can see the mold. This almost looks like a pile of embroidery floss now because I can see each one of those filigree layers. It looks like string. It's piling up in the mold. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the gold. I'm gonna do most of the gold in the same spot where I did the gold before, but I'm gonna overlap onto the other colors as well. All right, so that's it. Now we're just gonna let it cure and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow when I pop it out of the mold. Good morning. Well, it's morning for me. I don't know about you, but everything is nice and cured. And look at how beautiful the back of this is. Like I said, the back almost could be used as the front because it's so pretty. So if it didn't turn out, I guess I have a pretty back of the coaster. So, all right, let's demold this baby and see what she looks like. Like a kid on Christmas every time I do this. Still just a little bit bendy. Okay. Got some nice color on the edges. So pretty. I love how those edges turn out. All right, are we ready? And, oh yes. That's exactly what I wanted. It's so pretty. Love all the detail in there. And the paint is nicely incorporated into the resin. It was totally dry, so I didn't end up with that texture of the veins. And you can see all the nice crackling and dragon skin effects from the mica. So happy with that. All right, so hopefully you thought this tutorial was useful and learned some tricks that you can use. And if you did, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and click the little bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.